Hi, my name is Troy Udall. I'm here with three of my classmates, Nico
Connors,
Jess Martinez,
and Kellen Pham.
And we're just going to talk about sort of our reflection on this previous semester and how we can apply sort of our new understanding of like mythology to our own journeys during this previous term. So,
let's get into it.
Yeah.
In the car, I was thinking about how our professor said that the hero's journey cycle wasn't just a circle, it was more like a spiral, going up or down.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I think that it would be cool to define it as like scales on a piano, like the way that you would cycle through. You're in a new octave, but you're starting at the lowest note again, like as you go past. I don't know if that made any sense to anyone.
It makes sense.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
No, I played a band for a year and I was like, oh,
Me too.
yes.
So,
Yes,
No,
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're like going back to where you started, but in a completely different place.
The spiral really resonated with me as well, because I feel like in a lot of just storytelling, we have this like tendency to believe that like once a story ends, it just ends, you know?
Right.
Just because that's just how stories are framed, you know? Like a book can't last forever. I mean, I guess neither can a life, but a life has to keep going after a book ends, you know? So, I think that when it comes to just like the hero's journey, it's helped me sort of like reflect a lot on just like my own path and like recognize like my own struggles as being like heroic struggles in a lot of ways. And I don't know, this idea of just like a continuum of new things I need to get into, new stories that I need to like get wrapped up in. You know, you can't remain stagnant. You've got to be keeping like moving forward. It's really just sort of like, I don't know, help me gain a better appreciation for myself, I guess.
Okay.
Well, and I like that it's a spiral and it's not like a linear, like,
Yeah,
path.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, everything like comes back around, you know.
Right.
Like,
It's not that
you-
unilinear belief that there's a good place to be and a bad place to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
For a while, you know, I used to believe that I used to have sort of like a diminished like belief in how like life is like similar to like storytelling, and like how like nothing ever is like sort of dramatic as it is in the movies or the books or anything like that. And I don't know, I guess
Yeah, that's fair because you're not, fighting dragons or gorgons, but to an extent, on a functional level, it is kind of the same thing, isn't it? Because it challenges you in the same way.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
And it's kind of what's the term?
Productive?
Counterintuitive, I guess. Where your adventure or your struggle or your hero's path can be not having a hero's path, I guess, or like coming to an understanding of like your own sort of heroic nature. So
You don't have to die on a hill.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
There's going to be
Although-
a lot of hills.
There's
Honestly,
too many hills.
I do still like have like a lot of like reverence for like real world people who like commit themselves to like a bigger cause, though, like people who like can say that they would have been able to say that they like died for something, you know, something that they like believed in. So that still like resonates with me, and
I think it resonates with everyone. That's why they get written into history. Because it has an effect on like, oh, this is like a real world situation that I can affect
Right.
permanently, and that
Right.
will make me eternalized.
Well, it's not as much like I used to have like I used to idolize like people who were like remembered just for like the sole fact that they were remembered. But I'm starting to like appreciate more like the people who are remembered because of like what they did, like not just because like
Of who they were.
yes, exactly, like fame has become like a much less it's much less of a drive for me than
Right.
than it's been for me, I guess.
Right.
So,
I mean, I almost feel like that's a difference in, like, a change in our society is instead of remembering people for, like, oh, they faced this discrimination in this time, we're also remembering, like, the things that they did in the face of that discrimination. Like, we're, you know, like Helen Keller, we're like, oh, she was blind and deaf and
Right.
couldn't talk. And so, like, there's all of these, we should remember her because she was struggling so much. But, like, she also did so much more than
She
just
did.
that we
Right.
should remember her for.
your
Your life is hard.
your stereotypical heroines and heroes are much different from mine.
Oh.
Like putting like
Wrong analogy.
no, I'm just saying it's funny to like I guess reflect on that because one of the things when it comes to like idolizing heroes is like you know you like want to like put yourself in their shoes in their way some way you want to like sort of
Right.
like follow in their footsteps or something like that and I think that someone who it has like undergoes like such like physical struggles like isn't like the first person that a lot of people like come to mind when it comes to somebody that they want to embody like someone
Oh,
who
yeah.
like specifically like Helen Keller like it would be it's hard to be like, man, I wish I was blind.
Okay,
I
well,
wish
maybe
I
it
was,
was-
I
maybe
wish
it
I
was
was
after
deaf, you know? So yeah.
But for like people who are, never mind. I'm gonna go on.
So let me think. I guess that we can cut this as well.
We
Like
can always edit
we can edit this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be like perfect. So I think we should just start with like talking about our own like journeys like over this
Over the semester,
Over the
right?
semester,
That's
yeah.
the assignment.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
forgot.
Wait.
So I guess that if I were to look at this entire term as as the heroes, as an embodiment of the hero's journey, I feel like I'm somewhere between maybe ordeal or road back, maybe.
Okay.
With like, it's easy to like discern what the hardest part of like an academic semester is generally by like the amount of the workload, and this is definitely like the heaviest workload like when it comes to at the end of the semester. So
Yes.
um,
Yes.
I'm
Resurrection will be after the semester ends and I go to
Right.
sleep.
Yes. Yes, that'll be my resurrection.
as far as some other stuff like my call to adventure, I was actually like really hesitant to like this is my first semester being back at school after like a year off, and I was really sort of unsure about like coming back and like what my goals were. Actually it actually makes me the idea of like the reluctant hero actually kind of like resonates with me, you know, because like I was really sort of like unsure about like how I wanted to like or if I wanted to like get back into like academics at all. And
What's interesting about I think the refusal clause is what I dealt with a lot is like I didn't want to come up to like another failure. So I'm like, do I even want to do this? Because what if I just fail it again?
Right.
Like,
Sure.
Right.
and I feel like that is a common feeling during the refusal.
yeah, absolutely
Yeah.
self-doubt.
I'm just not good enough to do this.
For sure. But one of the things that really resonated with me that we were talking about in class when it came to like the hero's journey was how the adventures that or the struggles that are beset upon you are ones that will like almost always match what you're capable of overcoming.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
which was like really sort of like profound when I like thought about it, and it makes sense. Like,
It's like level matching in D&D.
no, absolutely. Like, I mean, if you like look at this as sort of like a, if you look at it like our world as like a World of Warcraft server, you know,
Nice, yes.
we're in like the like low like level like 1 to like 10 area right now, you know,
Skill-based
like
matchmaking.
yeah, we're just out like killing like rats and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's not like it's not some crazy. We're not slaying the dragons yet. You
Definitely
know?
not, no.
And maybe I don't know. I definitely feel like I've had to slay some dragons of my own at some point.
Well, he talks
So-
about that dragon being our ego.
Yes.
And that, what if I fail? I can't do that. You know, I'm not going to be good enough to do that. And that's huge. That's what it is.
Yeah,
The dragon is definitely, it holds everyone back.
for
For
sure.
a lot of things, for sure.
Yeah. I really liked that was a really profound metaphor as well about how, like, you know, I'm a nerd, right? Like I'm very familiar with like the knights versus dragon archetype, and the fact that like the dragon actually is meant to embody like the bad aspects of a knight. Like
Right.
that's I found that like really like sort of like eye opening, right? Where like the dragon is like the selfish, greedy, just like out for himself, and like the knight. What makes like a hero in like a hero's journey is like that sacrificing act. If you don't like, if you go out to just accumulate your own wealth or power, then you're a dragon in that sense. And
I like that, yeah.
so like what makes you the defining like thing of like a hero is like the ability to change and the ability to sacrifice, or the willingness to give something of yourself for like something else, or for someone
And
else.
willing to continue on into the unknown and
Right, like
regardless of whatever the consequences.
absolutely, like a dragon is just looking to like stagnate, just like keep things
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
You know.
I'd like to see if you guys are all moral people. When you're done shopping, what do you do with your grocery cart?
I put it
Don't
back.
lie.
I put it back. What?
Oh, I'll walk like from the parking lot. Like I'll walk it all the way back up to the front.
That's crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
normally when I go to a grocery store, I'll circle the grocery and then realize that I needed to get a cart because I can't carry everything that I'm looking to get. Like I don't know why, I just can't, like it's like a lesson I have to learn every time, and then I have to go back to the beginning and grab a cart. But yeah, I'll return it. I mean,
I only very recently started returning cards. I just leave them in the rocks. I don't.
Oh, really?
I'm a terrible person. I thought
Okay.
there would be more of me in
That
here.
is your.
If I get mad, if like someone at the store, someone like kind of pisses me off, like fine, but 9 times out of 10, I'll return it.
Okay.
I feel like
So I still am fighting my dragon. That's fine.
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard for an objective immoral person to exist in like a college environment without being made subject to peer pressure. Like at least like feeling a little bit of shame. Like I don't know. Like I feel like part of like being in school is obviously learning, right? But like in that, like you're learning to be more, I guess, thoughtful, and so you're learning to be like more empathetical.
Right.
So I think that in being like in school, you have the potential to like come out like a more like objectively
liberal.
morally better person, I guess. So I don't know, like that's
Yeah.
I'm just throwing some stuff out there. All right.
Oh, can I ask though, why do you guys return your cards? Is it like personal experience as working at a grocery store?
No.
Do you do
No.
it for the fame and fortune?
Personal responsibility. Come on, dude. Like,
No, I've worked, I've had a lot of different jobs, and like if I see trash on the ground too, like I'll pick it up. That's difficult out here, so there's a lot of
yes.
trash out
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
There's a lot of trash, but I feel like it's kind of a common courtesy thing. I don't want recognition for it, but it's just like people,
Right.
don't care. Like you're going
No,
to the
absolutely.
grocery store, you're like, that's where you get your food. You have these people, like, they're there to help you. People are miserable and they're just so like, I don't get it.
And like you're living in a community, a
Yeah,
society, and you're
right.
trying to make it a little bit easier on
Absolutely.
everyone else. Okay, that's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
admirable. A society.
The same people who like don't return grocery carts are, in my opinion, in the same category of people who litter, who are just
know,
people
right,
who
I
like
know, right.
people who don't give a fuck, you know. And it's
Right, right.
like a little bit more effort would like on everyone's part would just make like the world just like that much better. Like
We all have to
it
live
doesn't
here.
need-
Like,
yeah,
The earth
exactly.
cannot clean up after itself.
Yeah.
Like that's we've infested it. You know,
I,
we've taken over.
I govern all of my decisions by something I like to call the theory of maximum inconvenience, which is the ratio of inconvenience that it'll cause me and everyone around me. So I like to
Oh, I
think.
like that.
So I like to think that, all right, it's cold. It's probably going to snow in a couple hours. So maybe I should just put this back instead of leaving it here for some poor bastard to come out and drag
That
it back.
too.
see,
Right.
and that's the hero in you. You're the one who's you're sacrificing just those couple minutes that you otherwise would have kept for yourself.
There is a dragon, but the knight I am not.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about any aspects of your heroic journey? Like,
Well,
I
I
don't know.
recently got back from the Society of Archaeology convention in Denver with the Anthropology Club. So
Okay.
I assume that is like all of the initiation. Because like the trial allies, enemies would be the group that I was with, as well as the freaking guards who kept having us put our name tags on. But I think the guards were more passive. Okay, anyway. The transformation, I think, would happen in some of the seminars that I attended. Like, I listened to one for NAGPRA, and she was talking about being Dene and the right to destruction. Like, if a museum is going to give you back your artifacts, you're allowed to do whatever you want with that artifact, and they don't have control over that.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting for me to, like, hear about, and sometimes like getting that new information from a different opinion, point of view, perspective does that transformation. So I'd like to think that transformed me.
Dene is that's like an African culture.
Nope. It's another term for, I want to say Cherokee, but I'm also gonna cut that out if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's a
Google is
Native
free.
American.
Gotcha. Okay.
My phone is busy right now.
Yeah, that's true.
What about yours?
So returning
He's
to
also recording.
No.
No, that's not what you meant. Returning to the metaphor of the knight and the dragon, I guess in academia you will have to be the knight. There's always going to be that fight unless you're only like taking one class, in which case you do you, I guess. But on a personal or an interpersonal level, you cannot always be the knight because I think Nico said earlier that you don't have to die on a hill. There isn't always going to be a hill, and sometimes there's a shitload of hills. So, like,
You gotta choose carefully. Sometimes the hill is not as worth it as the castle. You know?
Well, and that's kind of where I don't know. I find myself to be very sort of, I guess, open-minded, I guess, and I kind of like envy people who are just able to just like stick to their guns, like even out of ignorance or whatever, you know, like it'd be.
I could definitely argue for my point of view of not returning the cart.
Right.
Jobs are necessary.
That too, absolutely.
it's easier to be stupider.
That's
Yeah, it is.
true.
That as well.
Okay.
That's true. But like, it's not easy to be intentionally stupid. I don't think. Like when you
Yeah.
know better, I think.
Yeah, because I think that would just on like, if you are intelligent enough to recognize that you are doing wrong, you're also intelligent enough to recognize that wrong is wrong, and you're going to feel bad about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, some gotta keep. It's nicer to like keep consequences in mind, I guess, or like what reactions are gonna happen with like your own actions. Like, it's a much more like sane way to like go about like doing things, but it's not.
That's the theory of maximum inconvenience right there.
Yeah, it's not the best way to like. It's not necessarily always the best way to do things.
I do want to lead that into like the anti-hero concept. If someone is doing something purely out of fear of consequences, are they still a hero? Or that's one of
No, that's
It's not all of them.
a really good question.
Intention and effect are very separate.
Yeah.
Well, Well, one of the things that Professor
Conrad Martin.
that's right.
That's one.
You know, he himself like was talking about his like his sort of like dislike of sort of like the anti-hero trope, and I think that one of the reasons that I liked from like his point of view was that like everybody's like a hero in like their own like regard, you know. Nobody's like everyone's on their own heroic journey, regardless of like what that like undergoes or undertales. And sometimes you falter and sometimes you fail, and that's where like the dragon like comes out in you, right? Where you become the bad guy of like someone else's story, but that doesn't make you any less of a hero in your own right. You're just undergoing another ordeal, I suppose. Anti-heroes. What was the question again? Anti-heroes out of fear,
intention.
like heroes out of fear, right? Or
If you're doing good only out of fear of consequences, are you still doing good?
yes.
That's a different wording than I used the last time. I forgot
I
what it
mean,
was.
to that question, I would say yes. I mean, you're still doing good things, I suppose. I mean,
What's your vote?
like,
It looks like you want to say something.
Okay, so you're doing it out of fear, and essentially there's a little bit of sacrifice there. Because you're sacrificing I don't know, like they're sacrificing their intuition though, like kind of a little bit of themselves. I feel like because if you're doing it for something else that's not for you, and the heroic has to be like kind of a little bit selfish because you have to get yourself there. You have to
sure.
want to do it for yourself, and then it becomes something entirely else for other people. But that's a difference.
Let me ask you like sort of like an inverse question. Like, is a villain villainous if they intend to do good?
Yes, that's the best villain. That was easy. Sorry.
Well, yeah, with the labels of deviant and bad that society has created, and according to society,
What if
they're
they
villainous, but
What if they only intend to do bad? What if they intend to do bad things, but they have to do good things to get there?
They're
Like-
still a villain.
Yeah.
Like if like you're if like a person like saves like a cat out of a tree, but just so that they can like cook and eat it later. Like, were they not still heroic in that?
Were
one
they
thing?
ever a villain to begin with, or are they just a man who was struggling in society?
I was going to talk about the Nazis, but no, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Oh man.
No.
Yeah, and there's definitely like, I mean, was Hitler a hero?
No, that's
What?
not what I meant.
Wow.
Well,
No.
That's where it went.
okay.
For some people, yes, but they're
For some people,
they can be wrong.
Well,
I suppose.
he had good intentions, right?
Is this the hill that you want to die on?
No, there's no hill.
It's a depression.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if we're taking this sort of like stance of like everyone's their own hero, wouldn't Hitler have been a hero to himself?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
absolutely.
yeah.
He definitely can. I think most like
He was a
fascist
villain to
regimes are
like
that.
99% of the world.
Right,
but
to
like,
himself and his followers.
sure.
Essentially, he's a hero.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
But-
he did a lot of sacrificing.
So, tying back to what you had said earlier, the example I was going to use was von Braun's development of the V-2 rocket for the Nazis,
Sure,
which
sure.
would go on to inform the American space program. So, I mean,
Ooh, that's a really good argument.
yeah, von Braun was obviously a Nazi, so
So is he an anti-hero for doing something good unintentionally, or is he an anti-villain for intending to have done bad but ending up doing something good?
I think that the real answer is that stories are representative of ideals as opposed to realities. So,
I don't know. Like,
That's a good
no,
point.
I think that what this course has, like, one of the main themes of this course has been like being able to like being able to see the archetypes of a story like within your own life. It's like everybody's got their own like struggles and like journey that they're on. So I think that what this course has like given me is just like a greater appreciation of just like I don't know, just the magic of like of mundanity, I guess, like of how like
Of the ordinary world.
yeah, absolutely. Anyways,
Sometimes there are no dragons and you have sleep for dinner. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Ice cube sandwich. Just forgot. No, okay. My favorite thing about the mythology class was tying it into anthropology, and being able to look at all these different mythologies and how they are being placed into their society in order to teach the beliefs that they want their society to have. And I wonder, like, it kind of gives an evil view of the mythology itself, as you're trying to use it to correct these people into believing and thinking what you want.
Yeah.
And in our society, we use like these cartoons to teach people morals and sharing and wonderful things, but there's other societies where maybe that's not what they're trying to teach, and I think that, I don't know, that really changes the perspective of it from outside.
It should probably be looked at like the way you should be looking at evolution, where it is not other things are more primitive than us. They're just different, right? Like I suppose that variation exists on the species level as well. That's what other cultures are.
Right, getting rid of the ethnocentrism.
Right.
So, in going off of like what you're talking about how stories, mythology, they're like meant to sort of enculturate and teach, younger generations, and even like, the stories that you're taught as like a kid can still resonate with you as an adult and like help you sort of reflect on like your own life, your own choices, stuff like that. What do you guys think about like that argument about how like violent media like makes people violent, like in your...
I have always felt like violent media is just a way for us to let out our violence, because humans are naturally violent, as was proven with the ape thing that we learned about in Sandy's class.
That is true. Chimpanzees are messed up.
They are very violent, as we are related to them, so we are as well.
But I guess that what I'm trying to get, what I'm trying to lead to, I guess, is that if our media is like meant to sort of like help like teach people, I think that our media does need to be sort of like more responsible in like a sense.
I think there's a change of media here, because video games are mostly for like teenagers, whereas
I don't think that's true. You ever seen a kid with an iPad?
Well, that's true.
Like, and I think that even like, it's not like we stop learning or like growing like when we like become adults either. Like those, I feel like violent media has like the potential to really sort of like dehumanize or even
Well, especially in today's world, we're so technologically dependent. Like, older, and I grew up without none of this. Like, no computers, no anything, and until I graduated high school, then we had like smartphones, and I was like, what the fuck? But it's just, and I have a couple of nieces, and they're so focused on their tablets, on their phones. They have to have that, and there's this disconnect between humans. And it's interesting because we need that physical connection, that physical intimacy, not necessarily romantic, but we need that. But we don't have that because of these. So I think the violence in the media definitely has a huge potential to influence others to be like that. Not maybe the cause.
I would agree with the potential.
Potentially,
but there is
yeah.
I think that there's also a difference between being candid and just being needlessly gratuitous.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess that goes back to the question of intentionality. What is the function of this piece of media?
Right.
Dang, I had a really good follow-up, but Kellen ruined it.
Oh no, Helen spoke.
You should've
Hold on,
told
let me think.
Morse code. No, we're not doing that.
Should have been taking notes. Gosh.
We got all the pencils.
There's
and
nothing
paper.
preventing you from just saying it.
Okay. So, something that we are talking about in like our cultural anthropology class right now is sort of like the effects that like the atomic family structure have had like over on like societal like growth and stuff like that. And I think that technology is really sort of like magnified or intensified like that.
Yeah.
But I do think that I agree with like this this theory from like the anthropological side is that we started like desocializing before we had like this technology like
We
so,
did, yeah, absolutely.
Anyways.
But you were there at the colloquium that Sandy threw, and the conversation being had of like our intelligence is lessening, where our individual intelligence is not as much as it used to be because usually like technology, but our herd intelligence has increased. Our like communication skills has increased.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how you. I think that the conclusion to that discussion was more that we're increased like in like we have increased knowledge of just like we've increased knowledge but decreased like sort of social knowledge. Like we've increased like practical knowledge, I guess. Like
We increased communication. That was
no. So
what that was.
I do think that like communication's also like I think that it's like understated, but it's also like something that like we have like potential to like that is like diminished. I think like in like this in like our social structure. Anyways, let's we're kind of we are getting on off. We are sort of trailing off here a little bit.
This is a sociology class.
Yeah, I know.
Down into the psychology
All
stuff
humanities
of it.
are the same.
Well, okay. Well, let's bring it back. Okay, so
So initially, I
social
thought that all
society,
the tricksters.
the
I thought
trickster.
that-
Just say words.
Okay,
Yeah.
shut up. Initially, I believed that the trickster was the embodiment of all of us because the trickster is the most human out of them, and I was like, well, obviously the only one I relate to is the trickster. I'm not sure if I completely believe that anymore. What are your thoughts?
I kind of felt the same way. Like, I don't know. I guess I always sort of felt like I didn't fit like that mold of like the traditional hero in my journey. You know, I always scored, and I always valued my my ability to guess just like be flexible. I guess in like my beliefs or like my goals, and I think that embodiment that in that way I do embody like the trickster and just being able to sort of like adapt. We talked a lot about like the trickster hero, how like that's how that archetype can be like so like I don't know, potent a reminder of like who we are, because it can a lot of times embody like better than like a traditional hero. Like an actual like a real person's like journey, someone who's like constantly sort of changing and like not only like their goals but like what they believe in and stuff like that. So yeah, I always associated with the trickster myself. So
Yeah, I like how I like the new perspective I have on the trickster. I think I embodied the trickster for a long time. It took went to community college 20 years ago, so now this is a huge change for me. But I was always adapting, I was always doing this or that, I wasn't like steadfast in anything. I just kind of kept avoiding like coming back to school or doing something that was better for myself. So now I'm more on that heroic path, like going down the journey of like all that stuff. I would say I'm kind of in between like transformation ordeal. We'll see, but I think for most of my life I've been like the trickster and stuff. So.
Is this like a meta view or like of like your whole life, or is it just for this semester?
Just for this semester, because like my whole life it's been a whole whole spiral and all that.
Okay.
But yeah, no. I like this semester, and I like what we've learned in class. I like the perspective of the trickster, and the heroic was actually surprising. I didn't expect to see like the heroicness in everyday life
For sure.
at all. Like, so it was really cool that he opened up my eyes for that. Yeah.
What about you, Kellen?
Well, just from a layman's point of view, since I'm not in this class. As
You've
far
taken a
as-
mythology class though, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, whoops.
As far as,
Crash course.
Yeah, that's what I meant by as far as a layman's view.
That was the most evil laugh I've ever heard. I'm sorry.
In terms of the mystical and the cosmological, that is the god and the goddess. I don't know if that has so much of a role in my life. I was raised religious, and I mean, there is a guy called God in Catholicism. You might have met him. You might know him.
You might have a personal
I have
connection
never
with
met
him.
him.
Yeah, neither have I. That's why I'm not religious anymore. So I don't think those aspects of my life really touch me anymore.
Well, I think
I'm glad they
that-
stopped touching you.
So,
Especially that.
as far as like the mystical like archetype goes, like you're not necessarily like looking for like what that does is it's supposed to like sort of make you feel like you have like a purpose or like an identity, and you can do that. Like a lot of people like look to like religion for that. They look for like sort of the structure of like scripture and like laws and like how they can do well like
Right.
objectively like within their lives. But one of the ways that I think that I've as like an atheist has come to like appreciate like the mystical aspect of the world is like just like through my own like philosophy. Like, am I doing well enough like by my own standard? Like, am I living like morally throughout like through my own lens, I guess. And I guess that kind of gives me my own sort of like purpose. Like, my goal is to just do the best that I can, I guess.
I always say, like, keep your side of the street clean, and as long as you can lay your head down at night, like, that's how you should be with other people and stuff.
For sure.
This class has also helped. I've always been in, like, kind of like an acceptance state. Like, I just kind of accept whatever. Like, I don't get mad about anything. I can't control people or anything other than myself.
Mhm.
But this has, like, provided a good, like, lens or glasses I can see. I didn't realize there were so many parts. So, to her everyday life, I didn't realize. It was cool. I like mythology.
Absolutely. You have to, it's kind of fun to, like, think about, like, who the Obi-Wan Kenobi is in your life.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah,
Who's your mentor?
It's nice to deconstruct
Yeah,
Right,
our own
yeah.
existence.
Yeah, who's your allies? Who are your enemies?
Where's
you know?
my hello there?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Are you chaotic neutral? Like,
No, I do find that term, trickster hero in particular, those two words joined together, I identify with a lot. Because there is, again, that dragon, but as I said, I am not the knight. If anything, I guess to use like a contemporary example, I feel like, like Bilbo putting the ring on and skirting around Erebor, hidden in the shadows.
I think that I think you're underselling yourself. Like I think you need to.
I think you're undervaluing Bilbo.
Well, I think he's undervaluing Bilbo.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So interesting. I believe that all tricksters are heroes because if the villain is sameness or inability to grow,
Right.
that's all the trickster does is like throws wrenches into the machine.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
the trickster is also like, I think the trickster is like an essential part of like the hero, right? Like the trickster is like the choices that you have to make. Like
Mhm.
you can choose to be like it's that the trickster is like the embodiment of like that decision point where like you're deciding whether you're going to be a hero
So I
or
had
a
this
dragon.
kind of vision
you
when
know?
you said it, like trickster is the choice.
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to you, you don't know what the consequences are to this choice.
Mhm.
However, when you make that choice and you find that not exactly beneficial outcomes come from that, the trickster still kind of has that morality about him, I feel like. So he's like, oh, that's not good, all right, let's go the other way. As opposed to the villain's gonna be like, oh, I just created a shitstorm, let's keep going. Like, with
Right,
that
right.
choice.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. Being able to like, yeah,
That's like the flying in between different worlds. It's like he's able to just change direction all
Right,
the time because he's
right.
not set on his one belief.
Right. And in a sense, I feel like he's not like, I mean, he is heroic. He just does whatever he wants. He doesn't know where he's going. He's just gonna do this and he's gonna do that.
and even like when you look at like some of like the trickster stories that like we shared in class about like Loki or whatever, right? Or
Mhm.
that one like Sumerian guy who's I don't remember, but the one that had to with the water and the fish. Anyways,
Enoki.
yes, that
Enki.
Enki. Yes,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
That's it.
So these tricksters are in the end like sort of like held responsible, and they like look to like they may like make a mistake and like they, they might like I don't know turn the water off for like the entire the entire nation, but it's then their responsibility to like put it back, and that's
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
that's what makes it so human is that they're constantly messing up and then fixing their mistakes. So
Correct.
that makes them the most
Right.
heroic of all.
Right.
And they almost can see the bigger picture in everything because they're so willing to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And that doesn't stop them from making mistakes.
No, energy. They just keep making the choices kind of without that fear, which is kind of cool. They don't
Yeah.
have that kind of dragon holding them back until they mess up and they're like, oh shit, okay, gotta fix that.
Yeah, but even
But-
then, that's like just accepting, like, oh
Right,
yeah, I'm
right.
gonna mess up. Whatever.
We'll find a way to fix it. There's always a way. Yeah.
I've actually been wondering this, like, we've been talking a lot about Lord of the Rings in the class, so
Yes.
something that's kind of been, like, I've been wondering recently is what the ring itself, like, the one ring is supposed to, like, represent.
Was it a passive enemy?
I think that it's supposed to be the trickster. Because, like, it's, like, that temptation to, like, use power to, like,
Okay.
like, it's the temptation of power to, like, overtake your enemies, I guess, or it's I think that on like a more like base level the ring represents like the willingness to use whatever it takes to win, like it's whether that be like ruthlessness or like cruelty, and that's something that like you never see like the heroes like do either. Like they never like become like so.
I mean, it literally is this article of clothing that you put on that turns you into the trickster.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right. Okay. Yep.
I like
Yeah, no,
that.
okay.
Too.
Yeah.
Because and then you literally go between different worlds essentially. You're kind of touching different
Dang.
planes.
Sure, token. He knew what was up. He was.
I'm gonna incorporate this into my D&D campaign
Yeah. Dang. That's pretty.
somehow.
Well.
You love Lord of the Rings. What is your?
Yeah. What?
That face though.
What? I'm not sure if there's much to be said that hasn't been said, but I like to view Sauron and the One Ring as kind of like a two-part entity, as opposed kind of like the Holy Trinity, but two and not holy because they're evil.
That's
Holy Trinity can be evil.
That actually is
depending
like
on who you are.
That's a pretty cool like way to look at it. I've actually been sort of like fascinated in like looking at like Eastern Orthodox Christianity or Catholicism, anyways, in just like their I guess like philosophical understanding of like Jesus and God and stuff like that. Like it's pretty cool like to see like how these laws are like how they go about like understanding like this like spiritual
Interesting.
entity. Yeah,
It's
and
definitely
I'd
interesting.
never thought of like comparing Sauron and the Ring to that, but I really like it. Like I,
But
Definitely.
it makes sense in my head. I swear I made sense of it. It isn't just like a joke. Or it.
no, I
No,
can no, I can see, I can definitely see it. Like, I mean, if you look at
Because they are a part of one another, but separate.
yes, absolutely,
So,
yeah. If you look
definitely.
at like the Ring is Sauron, you know, Jesus was God, but he was also like a man. The Ring's also just like a god, a thing, you know.
Right,
So I mean,
There's an open pathway. It goes both ways. Accessing one aspect of it, you are going to inevitably run into the others.
Mhm.
So, yeah, putting on the One Ring is giving Sauron a portal to your mind. Right? So,
Yeah.
praying to Jesus is in essence praying to God, praying to the Holy Spirit.
dang,
You can
Yeah.
say those names, but at the end of the day, I guess the net effect is kind of the same thing.
man,
Yeah.
that's actually really like deep. I think.
Yeah.
Like,
Profound, yeah.
Very profound.
Wow, I really like that. Here, I thought you weren't going to bring anything to this conversation.
Damn.
I used to write for Paige, Roy. I spent a lot of time thinking about things that aren't useful.
Well,
Tell me how you really feel, Troy.
I feel like we've had a pretty good discussion. If you guys want to maybe just like close with like, I thought maybe we could like talk about like maybe the elixir that we're all after. Maybe
That would
like
make sense.
what our goals are.
I was wondering what that meant.
It's sort of like the reward,
Okay.
like.
In
But
most
it-
things, it's like you bring back the elixir to save the world, but you also didn't have to save the world in order to effectively come back and finish the
Right.
trial.
Right.
The elixir doesn't need to be a physical thing either. Like you don't need to like at the end of your journey you don't need to get like, you know, the tavern keeper doesn't need to give you like a bag of gold. There's
Yeah,
like,
no, I
they,
mean,
like
I-
it can just, like
Right.
it can just be like what you learn, like the lessons that
Sometimes
you
it
learn
was
and
always
stuff
about
like
the
that.
friends you made
I
along the
was
way.
just about to say that.
Guys are
It's
nerds.
You guys are nuts.
No, I said you're nerds.
Oh.
Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, your mistake is thinking that I plan things out that far. I don't know if there is an elixir. I think that it definitely exists, but for me to name it, I don't think.
The elixir for me at the end of this semester is not having a B in any of my classes. I want them all to be A's.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
And then at the end of is to get a degree, I suppose.
I guess that I'm looking forward to just having completed all of my work, I guess, for this semester. Like,
Oh yeah.
I guess
Waking up
just
and not having to do homework.
yeah. I guess my elixir is just like the fact that the journey had ended, I suppose. So like,
And then it's on to the next.
yeah, I know. But like, you have to appreciate, you know, the time in between. I think so.
And that might be the hardest thing for me is like taking the time to like, oh, I completed this and now I'm proud of myself
Right.
before starting on to like the next thing and feeling empty again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's never over.
It's
Jesus
never
Christ.
over.
And-
There's so many layers.
There's more. There's more than one hill. Yeah.
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 I think that in you denying the existence of an elixir, you're denying that like you can like learn from like your mistakes or learn from your lessons.
Right.
So
Because that's essentially the elixir.
That is
as
the
well.
elixir, you
Yeah.
know. So
It
Ouch.
literally is the metaphorical friends I made along the way.
yeah,
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
no, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Kellen, you're my elixir. You are all my elixir.
What a jerk you are. Got a thirst for some elixir.
Only souls can satisfy.
Oh my gosh.
I like that.
You have any thoughts on
Um,
your elixir, Jess?
My elixir, as well, I want all A's.
Yes.
So it's been surprising how much I love school and how well I've been able to do at it. And when I get focused on something, though, I get horse blinders. But I'm just one step closer to getting my degree. I really like psychology a lot. The more I'm learning and taking these classes, I fucking love it. And so my elixir is, you know, when I'm done, I'm going to be able to take what I know, all my experiences that I've had, and help others the way that I was helped. Because, like, if I'm here in school, anyone else can do it, like, through all their struggles. So, yeah, that's my elixir. I just want to help others. I want to, because
Okay.
That's awesome.
we need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
People need it.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes back to just being moral and good to make the community like a better place for other people to live
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely been a drain and a detriment on the community, so I'm trying to be the opposite. But
All right. Well, if we could close with anything, I would say, Nico, start putting your cards back at the groceries. Like,
No,
okay,
okay, I gotta be somebody's villain.
I am
I like that.
I am the dragon. Don't let the dragon drag on.
Don't, yeah.
All right.
Fire and blood. I'll start here.
Well,
That's enough of that.
That's it. Goodbye.
yeah, bye now.
Bye.